All right, guys. All right, Ron is coming. We are having a little bit of a hectic night tonight. Anyway, wanted to make sure we got here and enjoy some two dads talk, possibly three. Who knows what's going to happen? It's a wild night. We actually, my daughter and I are heading to Florida this coming weekend. We are scrambling to get so much stuff done. We just had some friends over for dinner and had a pizza night. So I apologize for the disarray and craziness. But wanted to jump on. Ron should be along in just a minute. And we want to talk 50th. Want to talk what's going on with the 50th celebration at Disney World. Because, man, what an explosive reaction everything got. It was just crazy. The internet kind of blew up this week in Facebook groups, in chat, in the Twitter feeds. There were petitions started. There was gossip and rumors, so much stuff. But on the overall, while some people did express some disappointment with some of the new things, it seems to me that Disney's 50th really, for the most part, got some rave reviews. Good evening, Frank. So glad you're here. We do want to have you on a show. Ron and I talked about it. We'd love to have you come on and join us in the next couple of weeks and try to have something that we can, if you want to message myself or Ron about chatting about something or doing something very glitchy, huh? All right. We will see if I can change that. Give me 1 second to change a setting. All right. We should be back. I am hoping that took care of the glitchiness. Frank, if you can let me know if that is a little better, that would be outstanding. I think that should be a solution to the problem. Basically, the 50th had such incredible feedback, both good and bad, that I really wanted to get Ron on to be able to discuss things. And here comes Ron. So, Ron, we're already live. We are already live and on. We've got, we had 2 people watching. We were up to 4. They're running away faster than we can get them to stay. Whoop. Not really hearing you right now. You're breaking up a little. Frank, can you hear Ron? Because I can't. We're having one of those glitchy moments. This is what happens when we go live. Hold, let me see. Can't hear him. Okay, hold on 1 second, Ron. Let me see if I can. All right, let's try this again. No, you're coming in all static. Let's see if maybe if you try to rejoin the broadcast, like close out and then redo the link. All right, I'll remove you from now. All right, we'll see if Ron can come back. But as I was saying, there has been so much feedback, a lot of stuff going on, and a lot to talk about. Epcot Center debuted Harmonious. Magic Kingdom debuted Enchantment. Epcot Center also debuted Beacons of Light, which is the new light show on Spaceship Earth, which I will say of everything that we saw of Disney's 50th anniversary celebration changes or new shows or anything else, the Beacons of Light was by far the coolest thing I've seen. By far. Coolest thing out there. Enchantment debuted at Magic Kingdom. Kite Tales debuted at Animal Kingdom, and they have had, I guess, from what I'm reading, some pretty significant issues with that show, with weather, wind. I guess a jet ski flipped over the other day. They've had damage to some of the kites and some of the problems. So I think they are still obviously trying to perfect that a little bit more. Harmonious has been met with mixed reviews. Some basic criticisms that I think could kind of fix things. We're going to see if Ron can get back in here or not. I am not sure. Hopefully he will join us in just a moment. Let me see if he's texted me. What did you guys think? Like, I'm curious. Frank, I don't know if you had the opportunity to see any of the shows yet, but what's your honest opinion of them? I felt Happily Ever After was a little better than the Enchantment show, but doesn't mean that that is necessarily everyone's opinion. Here comes Ron again. We're going to try this again. Let's see what happens. No, I still can't hear you.
How about now?
Now we got you. Were you playing there? A little lip sync magic?
I was.
That was that actor in you.
It's true.
It's true. All right. So, Ron, I was just kind of updating everybody as to what an exciting week for Disney World. What an incredible experience. Met with rave reviews as well as some pretty bumpy reviews on some of the stuff. It's been a very different experience than I think a lot of people expected.
Right.
And I also think that the shows were met with a little bit of an overall feeling of letdown for a big group of people, mostly Disney purists that have been around and been at the parks for years and years and years, which you have been there long enough that you remember the blowback when Happily Ever After replaced Wishes.
Sure.
And everybody hated Happily Ever After.
And then they loved Happily Ever After. I think, the thing that I do understand when it comes to the purist, and I love that term, is Disney has trained these people to expect a certain standard, a certain level. It applies to certain types of restaurants. It applies to certain types of attractions. It applies to shows. They've been trained and taught, just like the magical above and beyond, which is normal for cast members thing, is also, it's not an unreasonable expectation. So when those things fall short, which, I mean, we talked about this before, and I was explaining to someone 2 days ago. We were talking about Disney because they had just gotten back, and their description was something felt a little off, and I can't put my finger on it. And I dove into what traditions training was like pre-pandemic, and due to social distancing, what they were forced to do when the park reopened. And I I feel that that may be overall impacting at least one aspect of that culture that people, purists, as you said, have in mind when they go to Disney.
Yeah, Frank, personally, I don't know anyone that loved that castle.
Are we talking about the 25th anniversary? Yeah.
I don't personally know anyone that liked the Pepto-Bismol castle, but that's just me personally. I'm sure there were one or two people in America that thought that was very nice. Probably the two design engineers. But just kidding. So in real talk, though, to pick apart Enchantment a little bit on what I thought was amazing and where I thought they missed the boat a little bit. I watched, now I will be totally honest and transparent in the fact that I watched a live stream from a local news channel in Florida, which was a very well done production. This was not watching on somebody's cell phone. I didn't watch the shake and bake video. So I watched a professional shot that took various angles, and I was blown away by the projections. The projections involved in that show to encompass all of Main Street and the castle was truly incredible. Ron, have you had the opportunity to watch any of the videos or see the show?
Not yet. I haven't.
It was awesome. The projection usage is, they have jumped leaps and bounds since the projection mapping, and to literally encompass the entirety of Main Street. If you stood back at the confectionery or the entrance of the Emporium on the south, like the closest to the entrance,
Okay.
At Magic Kingdom, you would see projections the length of Main Street and on the castle. That's which awesome. Is just insane.
That's wonderful.
So the projections are amazing. Where I was disappointed and somewhat surprised, the show utilized it. Some people said the fireworks seemed worse and like there were fewer of them. There was actually a count done that there's 43 more fireworks that fire off in Enchantment in a 15-minute show than there were in Happily Ever After in a 20-minute show. So it's actually far more fireworks in the new show. Where I was disappointed was the music. And I'll go into why. Because there is a legit, valid reason. And Tegan confirmed it for me when she came over and I showed her the same video last night. They do not use the original screen versions of the songs. They are re-recorded with different artists.
Right.
Slightly changed. And as a Disney purist, I want to sing along to the song I learned in the movie. Yep. And children are going to notice that far more than Disney would imagine they will, because the first thing a kid says is, why does Let It Go sound different? Why does Into the Unknown sound different? Doesn't matter what song it is. When they go see it on Broadway, same effect. Like,
Yep.
even though they may love the show, the songs are going to sound different, and they'll say, "Well, it wasn't quite as good as the movie because it just wasn't the same sound." And when you're standing in your fantasy place, the magical Walt Disney World, I think it is imperative that you actually hear the same music that made you fall in love with Disney.
I agree. The holdover show, the bridge show at Epcot between Illuminations and Harmonious,
Yep.
as much as it was a simple placeholder, that was one of the many things they got right. They plugged in the actual music that they'd captured from the various shows and the venues. And I'm not kidding. I hope, Disney's been known to release soundtracks of various sounds from the parks, from attractions. I hope they do with that one, because I would greedily consume it. And that's a big reason, though, is the nostalgia makes the connection because the music's all original.
So Enchantment, to me, to sum it up, is Happily Ever After 2.0.
Okay.
And I will say that because Tink Still Flies, which was a huge concern for people.
Yeah.
And it is incorporated with the new song, and it's done very well. That moment is still in the show, which is a big moment for people. Like I said, the fireworks are still amazing. The projections were very good, but the music to me doesn't flow the same way Happily Ever After did. And it feels a little more broken than fluid. And it took newer movies and is trying to incorporate it to the fan base, which is great. But to me, where I feel they missed the mark is this was the show to be introduced for the 50th anniversary.
Yep.
And I feel as though there was not, you don't hear Walt speak at any point. I think that was an imperative big swing and a miss.
Yeah.
I think that the journey of the 50 years, you don't have to go back to the 30s and when the movies were first starting or anything else, but the journey should have, to me, like It's a Small World should have been incorporated in that show somewhere.
It's
even some of the ride music, some of the things that have just made the park over the years specific to Magic Kingdom, I think should have been more of the focus. And I really personally feel as though they really missed the mark.
And I love that you brought up the point of Walt. I agree. Walt's voice should have been there. Even if it was just him saying to all who come to this happy place, welcome, whatever it is, you should have heard his voice. And I love that you brought that up, because there was this content transition that began to take place the year after I had taught traditions, where they had brought in an outside company. And one of the first things this company wanted to do was remove the old guy, remove the references to the old guy, because it's not relevant today. Thankfully, there was enough pushback that these people recognized that, if you take Walt out of the equation, you might as well not even call the place Walt Disney World. There was a very specific reason Roy wanted the property called Walt Disney World. So
right.
Walt, by virtue of that, needs to be present.
And I agree. And listen, and I think so. I had conversation with a couple of friends about my opinions of the shows, and obviously I was even chastised a little bit for speaking badly about something that Disney did, expressing a little bit of a letdown or disappointment, because there are people that are apologists for Disney that they really can do no wrong in their eyes, as long as their characters, are there and they can go home and live in the fantasy. And I will tell you, for a first timer going to Disney World, if you saw Enchantment, you would be blown away. You it would be one of the most extraordinary shows you've ever seen. You would be screaming from the rooftops. That was the coolest thing ever. And that is one of the things that I agree that the magic of Disney has. Now, if the point is to transfer a show like from Wishes to Happily Ever After, and then you want to go to Enchantment, I think that's great. And there is going to be hate because people don't like to lose what they love, and they don't deal well with change. And these are true points.
It's a familiarity thing too. It's almost like
Correct.
It's emotional comfort food.
Mm-hmm. Well, I mean, like Tegan, the only show we ever saw was Happily Ever After. So for the years we were there, I watched Tegan grow up with Happily Ever After. So to know it's going away, there's that stage of transition where Disney will not be the same now.
Right.
And you know, that is that comfort I think you speak of, where people are so accustomed to a certain show or a certain concept that they literally fall in love with it, and you know, nothing else can compete. Doesn't matter.
Right. And I think it, you know, there are a few parades that I love. I love one's the Electric Light Parade. I think it's astounding. Of course, when I work, and just so everybody out there knows, I'll say it now. The disclaimer is I never speak for Disney. I don't speak for Disney, not in any official capacity. I'm simply relaying some of my own experiences. But you know, the Electric Light Parade, I loved that show. And when I became a leader in entertainment, I discovered how expensive it was to manage those floats because of the technology at the time. It was a Herculean task, and my hats off to the maintenance teams and everybody else who worked every single day. It was an around the clock effort to make sure when it was out on stage, there wasn't one single bulb burnt out. I mean, people don't think about that. You know, you're talking about a thing with, you know, 500,000 light bulbs.
Right.
And it's amazing.
Frank made a comment, and I wanted to give Frank a spot that I don't know if you're allowed to currently do it because of COVID, to be totally honest with you. But Frank, one of the best spots we've ever found is to actually go upstairs at the train station at the end of Main Street to watch the night show. It doesn't get as crowded. There's probably more people there now if they do allow people up, but it's going to change with the way Enchantment is set up. I think it's actually going to start to eventually pull people further back down Main Street to see the projections on Main Street. You may actually find that the hub opens up a little more in time. It's going to be a weird transition, but I'm anxious to see that. One of the other spots that we like personally is to stand over kind of in front of Crystal Palace. There's the little footbridge that goes over to Adventureland. You do get obscured by some trees, but you can still get a pretty good view of things from there. Especially if it's just the fireworks you're really worried about seeing.
Yeah. Actually, conversely, bookending that on the other side of that end of Main Street, you know, as you're going into, I was going to call it Future World, Tomorrowland, right? Isn't that what it's called? I just had a brain fart.
So, it is. That's okay.
But as you head over there, there's that open dining area that sort of goes down by the water. It used to at one point be a place where I think you could board the swans to ride on the river, but that's also a place.
Yep.
Same as with the bridge, though. There are some obstructions, but
yep. But the point I was trying to make on the Happily Ever After versus Enchantment and where that's getting some hiccups, I don't have a problem with Enchantment as a show as much as I have a problem with it being the show they chose for the 50th.
I think, just real quick, I'm still processing the fact that you said all the music is they're redos by artists. I mean, they're now interpretations, and I think that's going to be tough for people who, you've got the music in your head, you've got the earworm, everything is playing out, and then you go and you hear someone else. Nothing against the pop stars that they signed to do the songs, but
it's huge. It's huge songs too, because it's, it is Into the Unknown from Frozen 2. You know what I mean? It's like
who does that? Garth Brooks?
Yeah. That would be hilarious.
Yeah,
that would actually, in the tune of Friends in Low Places. And
there goes the show, folks.
Yeah, into the Empty Park, with two viewers on the podcast.
That's a good point, though. That's another thing I heard, which was wild. Everybody was rushing the shops to buy 50th merchandise. So
the rides were dead.
Many of the attractions were walk-ons.
I saw friends posting pictures of them riding Pirates of the Caribbean alone in boats on the 50th, on the anniversary. The disappointing thing to me that I did see was some of the videos of cast members trying to put out limited merchandise, and just the lack of respect or safety, for that matter, for cast members. I also saw some videos of people actually getting into fights over stuff, which was it was very disappointing to see. It was disappointing to me also, just in the sense that I really feel as though Disney is one of those companies that should have seen the writing on the wall and been a little more prepared. I understand why they're not.
But you're right. They've done this so many times. They've done releases, they've done events. And that, to me, that's part of the challenge. Is maybe there's not a book that exists. When you're rolling out an event, these are the steps you should take. Maybe there's not a book that exists. I honestly don't know. I know when they do Hurricane Rideout, there is a book. The resorts have a book, entertainment has a book, and even though it changes from year to year, we know how to follow it. But in this case, you have to know, with the 50th anniversary and the buzz that's happening, people are going to go. People are going to show up. They're going to go shopping. They're going to want to buy stuff for their loved ones or for eBay. And and I when things like that happen, I don't understand why Disney shortchanges the experience. It's limited merchandise. You know what? If it's limited merchandise, put it out there in gigantic hoppers and let people go for it, because they're going to anyway.
And here's the problem too, that I understand from some of my friends that are retailers, CMs that work in retail at Disney. They're just like everywhere else right now. There's, 500,000 containers stuck offshore that are carrying products that are supposed to be available right now for the 50th. So
it's true.
Like these items that are supposed to be there in mass quantity are there in limited quantity,
right?
And it has made them more desirable. And now, instead of being kind about stuff, people are just flat out getting violent. It's like Black Friday shopping to get a Disney coffee tumbler. And
I think once things started opening, as the impact of the pandemic began to lessen, I was shocked. I expected people to come out and be kinder and be gentler to one another. But I've been alarmed. I've been alarmed at the rudeness and the maladjusted people and the bickering and the fights that happen at the parks, and how contentious the behavior is of some of these people wanting to challenge cast members, wanting to challenge law enforcement. Come on.
This is a conversation I had with somebody years ago, before any of this behavior started, before pandemics or anything else. But we were talking about technology. And what we talked about is how email took away courtesy for years, because when email first started, like if you're old enough to remember having to write a letter to somebody, and put a stamp on it and
Yep.
send, wait a week, and like everything.
You licked that stamp. They weren't
You
self-adhesive
did.
stamps.
You licked that stamp and you licked your envelope, and that. Thank God we didn't have COVID then, huh? I'm just saying. Could you imagine? But in real talk, when we learned to write letters, it was, Mr. Jones, how are you today? I would like to ask you this question. Now, because of the simplicity and rapid fire ability to get an instant response or an instant thing, you're literally, instead of composing a letter, you're sharing a thought in Word sent to someone. There's no greeting. There's no signature.
And
there's no subject line.
It's in shorthand too. It's not proper grammar. It's not, the punctuation may or may not be there. And you're
correct.
Right. You're right.
So people started emailing in, I don't want to say unpleasant terms, but there was no courtesy anymore in
Right.
greeting.
Right.
And then that began to transfer to in-person greeting. And rather than saying, hello, how are you? People just started saying exactly what they needed immediately because they were used to emailing people. And what I feel happened in the pandemic, that, technology has been a blessing and a curse, but text and email and all these instant things have taken away the people's need to associate with others in a civil and normal manner. And you see it in Facebook groups, the keyboard warriors, the people that mouth off, the people that get rude,
yes.
All the people that say things. That's transferred to society now. Now, shut down society for 15 months. Don't let people interact with anybody. And guess what? You forget how to interact with the public. And now you're just instantly snapola. You're ticked off. You had a bad day.
Yep.
You don't let everyone know it.
How do you suppose all those folks were yesterday when Bookface and Instacart, Instagram were down? Because I guess that was the thing, right? They were down for
many I heard Facebook actually violated their community standards and they were allowed to come back on after 6 hours.
Nice. That's awesome.
But so getting back to the 50th and some of the sad things that did happen that day with some of the fighting and some of the other things, there was still some amazing stuff. And it was really cool to see the 50-year employees be honored. It was really cool to, there was a story I saw that was one of the coolest. A Fox affiliate had picked it up. I saw it shared on an Instagram and a couple Disney pages, that a woman had taken her son to Disney on opening day in 1971, and they recreated the picture in front of the castle.
Yes.
That was super cool, like really neat to me, to have a 50-year-old guy standing there with his mother to take that picture, because he was just a baby when they went the first time.
Yep.
Some of the things that have added, Epcot surprised me. Harmonious, I watched the debut of Harmonious, same network, same channel, professionally done shots.
All right.
I have some critique on Harmonious too. I'm not going to lie. Tegan made a great point that I hadn't thought of, because I kind of said the same thing about the music, that it was a little tough for the fact that it wasn't original versions used in the show, and it was done in the language of the country it represented when they sing it. But Tegan brought up a great point that Epcot is more geared towards adults anyway. It's more geared towards the exposure of World Showcase and culture and everything else. And she thought it was really cool. And when I thought about it from her saying that as a child, I was like, you know what? You're 100% right. That is pretty cool for that difference. But that show, my knock on it is they have that giant space sphere, the Stargate.
Right.
And they use it for projection. but unless you were directly facing it or directly opposing it, you don't see that projection.
Oh,
So
that's unfortunate.
to me, so you literally have to be in 10% of the crowd to see that projection. So to me, that should have rotated like the Globe did when they had illumination.
Illuminations. Yep.
So that was a missed thing. And then I saw a couple cast members and a couple other people that critiqued the fact that the barges are too close to the Stargate, and they all have projections screens on them. They're all giant television monitors, basically, but they should be pulled back away from the Stargate and a little bit closer to shore, because it's all centered in the center of the lagoon. And it's not that it's super far away because it's not huge, but they could be closer to the crowd. And I wonder if that's more to do with the boating during the day and being able to transfer the boats and carry people from, stop to stop. I don't really know why, or if they have a good reason, but I thought that is a valid point that was made.
And there's a good chance, give it a few weeks, once they've worked out whatever kinks they're trying to still pay attention to, they may look at things like that. That may be part of the plans to move the barges.
The second day they had no projection.
Oh, you're kidding?
No.
Oh, that's not good. Wow.
They were on like what they call it, the B plan or whatever.
It's pretty bad when a brand new show has to go to a contingency in day 2.
Yeah. And the one that took it even harder than that was the new Animal Kingdom show, Kite Tales. They had a jet ski flip already.
Wow.
That put 2 people in the water. Everyone was fine. But they had the jet ski flip over a wake, and they've lost 3 kites, 2 in the trees already. And there's a TikTok of watching the kites hit the water and rip. That was multiple kites. It's going to be interesting. That one's so dependent on almost the perfect weather.
Yeah.
That they've already canceled the night shows a couple times, and they were on like the B version of their show already, after some issues as well. So there's definitely been some bumps in the road in the rollouts of these new things, which makes me even more concerned from the IT side of it, with Genie Plus trying to roll out in the next few weeks, and some of the other technological things they're going to try to do, because my Disney experience isn't exactly known for reliability as is. And I can see there being some pretty hefty flops and frustrations.
Yeah. And I think as we progress, we're only a week into the 50th, and not only the point you made about, the dozens upon dozens of freighters off of both coasts trying to get in and offload their freight containers. Disney is still suffering from woeful staffing shortages. And, I've got several friends that were working as part of the ramp up team in guest relations to get the park ready for October 1st. And most of them were pulling doubles, and they were going crazy, but, they loved it. They were happy to be a part of it. But, nobody can do that for an extended period of time. So,
well, I mean, mobile ordering at Magic Kingdom on the 1st was you order, you wait 30 minutes, you announce that you were there to pick up your order, and then you waited 2 to 4 hours to get your food. It was so badly disorganized. That's
almost, you know what, in my mind, in some ways, it's worse than the grand opening of Disneyland in 1955.
from what I heard, it was really bad. And what I understand, like the people that went and did rides, like you said, they were in heaven because they were
Yep.
running around doing
Yeah.
stuff. But the
Yep.
people that wanted the collectibles or to get the specialty food that was available that day and, take some pictures and see the cavalcades and do that stuff.
Yes.
Cavalcades were amazing. The 50th cavalcade, I was very impressed with. I just think that, again, the staffing shortage definitely hit them because, I mean, I think about the mobile ordering issue. They're probably at half staff in most of those restaurants anyway, from what they want to be.
Sure.
And when you're doing mobile ordering, you're not going by table. Those quick service places, they've got to take whatever guests want to order. You're not, it's not a reservation system like going to be our guest or going to somewhere else where they're,
Right.
I'm going to seat 40% of the restaurant.
Yeah.
This is like 60% of the people in Magic Kingdom want to eat, and Cosmic Rays or Pecos Bill is where they're going to go. And I guess waits were just through the roof. And, you feel bad for the staff, you feel bad for the cast, but you do feel bad for the guest. If I waited 4 hours for a $15 cheeseburger, I'd be pretty ticked too.
I feel bad because I still, though I am no longer formally officially with the company, that part of my heart feels bad because for the people who are going for the first time, some of the things they're going to see are absolutely going to transport them in the best way possible. But then there's other things they're going to experience, like that 2 to 4 hour wait for a burger and fries. That, I'd look at that. To me, I know what my limits are. I
know a lot of people that wound up deciding to go back to their hotel and get food.
Sure. I believe
and
it.
Then I know a couple people that were almost denied getting back in, even with their park reservation, because as the night hours approached, everybody was trying to go see Enchantment. So, they had to get a manager because, again, and this is something that I try to explain to people a lot and defend CMs, because any given CM can be given different information than another. So when people get frustrated that they don't get the same answers, they don't have the same leaders, they don't have the same trainers.
And in fact, it can within the same operating organization, you can have 2 or 3 leaders on. You might have your morning, your mid, and your evening all overlapping if they have that kind of coverage in management. And each one of them may be giving different marching orders. And as a cast member, you try to interpret it as best as you can in a way that does the least amount of damage.
Correct. But like my friend said, they were told if they left, they were guaranteed entry because they had an original reservation to be at the park that day. Right. So they left, they went to Pop Century, they came back, and the cast member was like, no, you can't get in. We're at capacity. And they were like, we were told we would be guaranteed entry again because we had a reservation today. And they had to get a manager, which I'm glad the cast member did. And I'm glad that my friend is also smart enough to escalate it to the proper channels. And they were let back in, but they were even told that it was getting to the point where whether you had a reservation or not, they weren't going to let you in, which I had thought Disney announced there would be no park hopping that day, but then they allowed park hopping. So I think that threw a little bit of a wrench in it too, because people were coming over from Epcot to try to go.
Yeah, we talked about this. We touched on it briefly last week. I think Disney is still trying to figure out what attendance is going to look like over the next few months, because for me, I don't recall a time where they offered discounts on accommodations leading up to almost the middle of December for Florida residents. I just don't. This is typically a period where they don't need to do that.
But the funniest part, Ron, if you try to find a hotel right now, you can't. If like I'm going on as an agent with my clients trying to find rooms in December, very little available. And you would have to discount it because I'm going to have to rent the,
Right.
the mayor's suite, and whatever. So, it's like, oh, we'll give you the discount on this $6,000 a night room. Yeah, you're going to have to, because otherwise I can't afford it. So it's availability is sparse. There are times where you can get it. Obviously, there are rooms available if you search hard enough and you have some flexibility, especially if you have flexibility in your dates, always helps. But they're pretty solid. But what I want to touch on, in addition to Harmonious and Kite Tales and Enchantment, is where Disney hit it out of the park. And I really got to give them credit. The new lights on Spaceship Earth and the Beacons of Light show are incredible. People loved when the Tree of Life was illuminated at night and the animations were projected onto that tree and that night show started and all the LED leaves lit up and the whole tree just looks amazing and beautiful at night. Super cool. I know they have put projections on Spaceship Earth in the past, but to have a 360-degree light show on that with the new technology that these lights possess, it is mind-blowingly beautiful. And I saw a picture that someone had taken, which may be one of the best pictures I've ever seen taken at Disney World. Monorail Red was coming by. Spaceship Earth is in the view. It's at night. It's over one of the bodies of water where it's reflecting Spaceship Earth on the water, illuminated with Monorail Red going by its side. And that, for those that don't know, the monorails for the 50th got LED lighting under them that projects the color on the track of the said monorail. So they correlate to the color of the train on the track. And the lighting is amazing. And that Beacons of Light show, I think, was even better than the Harmonious show. Just a quick 5-minute LED show I just thought was absolutely breathtaking.
I'm curious to know, generally speaking, what people think of attractions like Ratatouille, because I'm hearing a massive spectrum from the people I know that have been on it. At least it sounds like it's for the people who have the desire to compare the two. It sounds like it's a more immersive, more enjoyable attraction than Mickey and Minnie's Runaway Railway. I don't remember the name of it. I'm getting close though, right?
Mickey Minnie's Runaway Railroad.
Oh, look at that. All right. Yeah. I had someone I was talking to say, I felt like they had a budget for Ratatouille where it felt like they ran out of money for the Runaway Railway. Like,
I think I've heard mixed reviews on Ratatouille as well.
Yeah.
But the reason I've heard mixed reviews is I guess some people are having a hard time with it because it makes them nauseous.
Motion. Yep.
Motion sickness.
Yep.
I battled with Star Tours for years. Star Tours was a tough one for me. I have vertigo. That could really shake me into next week.
Well, how did Rise affect you? How did Rise of the Resistance affect you? You seemed okay to me, but
I do great on Rise, and I am much better with my vertigo in recent years, the last couple, than I have been in the past. But I also started wearing Dramamine patches,
right.
That do help. And Rise, I think, is amazing. But I think Rise also got some knocks from guests. And I think a lot of it has to do with the fact that, if you're not a Star Wars person, that experience is not going to be the same for you.
That's a great point. Yeah.
And you're going to be a little underwhelmed. And I think for Ratatouille, I think it's a very similar situation in the sense that, you may be underwhelmed. You might be overwhelmed. It might be more intense. You think, there were people going onto that thinking it was a kiddie ride, going to be this goofy little, like, oh, here we go. It's going to be like It's a Small World.
Right.
And then, they're coming off going, oh my God, I'm going to be sick. It's three-dimensional. It has aspects that you may not expect.
Yeah.
It's, I haven't done it, and, we won't be for a while, but I'm anxious to see how that ride does. The queue system is exactly what it was for Rise of the Resistance. You get a 7 o'clock and a 1 o'clock. The 1 o'clock, you do have to be in the park. The 7 o'clock, obviously you don't, because they're not open yet. From what I've heard the last few days, the 7 o'clock goes out just like Rise of Resistance did. It's gone in a second. But I've heard so far this week, since the first, that the 1 o'clock boarding pass launch lasts for an hour or an hour and a half, like maybe even a little longer. So if you don't get it the instant it starts at 1,
Really,
you got a pretty good shot at it, which is nice to hear. But I'm curious what the numbers are that those rides can do, because maybe they put more riders per hour through than Rise of the Resistance did. I'm not sure. I don't know what the frequency of guest count is or their ride flow, but
yeah.
if they put
Capacity is typically a pretty closely guarded number. But
no,
I
correct.
would think they would want to move as many through as possible. So I'm curious with what you're saying, if they have a way, like on some other attractions, like Pirates of the Caribbean, they could cycle in more boats. I wonder if they can do something similar with this attraction.
I'm sure they have the ability to run more cars or less, like similar to a roller coaster or anything else, that you could put more trains on, put more boats in, whatever you need to. Sometimes by adding those, that decreases the efficiency of the ride, in the sense that, you risk more breakdown, more potential for problem, everything else. But I'm sure there is a designed goal number, whether it be 1,200 guests an hour or whatever it is, that they're trying to pump through on that ride. And, that's pretty typical in most ride setups. I just wonder if availability is higher with Ratatouille or lower. Like, I don't know what the group numbers are, how many people are coming out per group. And obviously, as you stated, those are all very closely guarded secrets and not stuff Disney ever wants anybody to know or get talked about. But that could affect why there is more availability later in the afternoon, if they are turning a higher number of people to begin with through the ride.
Right.
Because it's going to increase availability. But I know Rise has also so many moving parts that there's hiccups with it going down, or portions of it going down on a regular basis, that can slow. I'm sure that, they only allow so many boarding groups with that in mind as well, that we could be spending a few hours down today. We got to make sure we don't overstock ourselves and alienate guests too. So, I'm sure all those things are considered. At least I would hope.
Yeah.
At least I would hope. So what are you drinking tonight?
I keep meaning to fill it with alcohol, but it's always water.
Water? That's very good of you. I drink coffee, and this is why I don't get to bed till 1.
I would drink coffee, but water. I need to hydrate, because I'm talking all day, and I like water. I like water. I'm a fan.
That's hey, H2O.
Yep. Hydrate or dihydrate.
That's right. And on the Jungle Cruise, you get the backside of water, the O2H.
Yeah, when you bathe, you get water on your backside.
If you bathe correctly.
Yeah.
But anyway, so 50th we are super excited that this weekend, Friday, we are flying to Jacksonville, which is just so exciting. And then we are going to be heading to Universal for a couple days. And we decided that we are going to go to Boma at Animal Kingdom and enjoy the buffet and see our friend Christian, which if you ever go to Boma for breakfast, people, request Christian, best server at Boma. No offense to anyone else. They're all awesome, but Christian is the man.
I want to go to Boma.
Come up and join us, 7:30 a.m. You can be there nice and early.
Yeah. What day?
Saturday morning.
Okay.
So so we have a 7:30 at Boma. We're going to see Christian. We're going to check out a couple of the animals around Animal Kingdom Lodge. Probably going to head over to Disney Springs for a few hours and then grab lunch at Beaches and Cream. And
I love their grilled cheese.
Yeah, it's so good. With the tomato soup. Yeah.
Don't think I won't drive up there to meet you guys.
No, I know you would. That's what makes it awesome. But we are doing Beaches and Cream, and then we're heading over to Universal to enjoy the parks for half a day Saturday, and we'll stay do full days Sunday and Monday in the parks before we fly home on Tuesday and have to drive back up to Jacksonville to enjoy our flight home. But we are super excited to get some time down in the parks. And I think Monday night, Universal parks are closing early, like 8:00.
Oh, that's right. That's right. Yeah.
And we are thinking, well, that's their closing hours now. That's not even for Halloween Horror Nights. That's just they close at 8.
But okay. I know they've got special events coming up. I don't know if it's Orlando Informer, but I know they have special.
That's a couple weeks away, but yeah, okay. But so we're driving, thinking we may drive over to Epcot, and even though we don't have tickets to Epcot, we have a dinner reservation at Beaches and Cream, and we might go over a little early and walk down by the boat dock at Epcot and see if we can glimpse a little of Harmonious from outside the park and see what we think about seeing aspects of it live.
You know, and it's pretty cool. The yacht, I think it's the Yacht Club. Maybe it's Yacht and Beach, but their concierge level, you can actually watch the show from up there because they're wraparound balconies and the music that's playing is synchronized.
Yeah.
Pretty impressive stuff.
Kind of like what California Grill does with the night show, correct?
Yes.
Yep. That's awesome. We're not one of them rich folk that can get up there, so we won't be up there for that.
I'm not one of those rich folk either, but when I was with Disney, you know, there were a couple of times where I booked concierge level at Disney's Animal Kingdom Lodge. For one time it was 118 and the other was 127.
Well, like I told you, that's insane. But we stayed at Pop in August, and when we stayed at Hard Rock, I do too. It's one of my favorite resorts. But when we stayed at Hard Rock at Universal, we only paid $20 more for Universal's version of a deluxe hotel.
Yep.
So the prices are a little crazy at Disney now. I know over the weekend of the 50th, Pop was $300 a night. So that's a lot of money. To me for a hotel.
Yes.
Style. The rooms are great. No knock on Pop at all. Once they redid them, I think Pop is actually better than many of the moderate resorts at Disney. Great USB out. There's 12 USB outlets in the room. It's a huge TV, given a hotel. I mean, now they all have huge TVs.
Yeah, but they're smart about making even the value resorts feel like things aren't being cheapened down. You know, I love the value resorts. You know, I love Disney's value resorts, the moderate resorts. I think they're all wonderful. You know, really, truly.
I think I agree with you, Frank. My favorite value resort is Pop. The reason I shy away from All Stars is All Stars have the 3 stops with the bus.
Yep.
If you do bus, you're Pop is a dedicated stop.
True.
So, like for me, if I want to get back to my room and I'm at All Star Music or whichever one is the last stop,
right?
And we go to sports and movies, and then finally get me over to music. I'm like annoyed to have bounced through 3 stops, and that's my entitlement. It is. It's me. I'm entitled, I guess. But that's why I like Pop, and it's usually the matter of about $40 or $50 between the All Stars and Pop for a room. And now the thing I'll say with the Skyliner being added to Pop, I'm surprised they haven't changed the classification of Pop to a moderate, to be totally honest with you.
I don't think there's any reason to.
Well, they could make more money. Don't tell Bob Chapek. But the it
not saying anything here.
There's the opportunity to make the almighty dollar. Oh, we're gonna make it. They Disney is not shy about making their money, and they know how to do it, and they're also not shy about spending it.
Well,
so
they
put it back into the stuff.
Yeah. I wanted to follow up with that by saying, Disney is traditionally, customarily, and this was driven by no less than Walt himself. He'd said, spend the money, give people a quality product, they'll take care of it, and they'll be willing to spend the money on it. We talked about this before, the stagecoach ride in Disneyland and Frontierland with the hand-tooled leather seats. That people were the executives with him were losing their mind. Like, people are going to destroy it. No, just give them a quality product, and they'll be okay spending the money. And I think, I think that's where Disney's good about that still in some cases, but I think in other cases it misses the mark.
I think that's where some of the debate and valid question comes in now. Is the juice still worth the squeeze to spend premium vacation money to go to a place where you're going to get a premium vacation experience? And through no fault of Disney, I'll even back this up by saying I don't think that the problem started by fault of Disney. COVID changed an awful lot, and it forced Disney to make changes to their policies, procedures, and guest experiences that affected the customer experience to the point where some customers felt like they were being shorted a little.
Yeah.
And then when prices went up, instead of staying the same or coming down, it alienated some consumers to feel like, wait, you want me to pay for more, but I'm getting less. Right. And it's a valid argument.
Yes, it is.
But I think Disney's mindset is there is so much on the horizon that will equalize that value when we're capable of doing it, that we need to stay with our plan to have escalated pricing, which was made again pre-COVID. COVID has just changed so much. If these price structures were set to roll out in accordance with a non-COVID situation and they didn't make changes as a result, because they had to focus on other things, and they're keeping with the rollout of whatever because they couldn't plan it or couldn't get things changed fast enough or anything else, whatever excuse. I'm not trying to be an apologist for Disney. I'm just saying it's a realistic fact that businesses will move on with things. If they have to change safety structures, put up the plexi, do the things like that, their focus in that moment is to get the stuff done to get open. Everything else gets shelved to the back burner for a little bit. Right. I think some of these plans got shelved to the back burner, and then when they realized they should address them, it was almost too late, and they have to just roll with what was coming out. And I think that's kind of what happened with the 50th, because believe me, Disney had every intention of being much further along with Epcot, with rides. Sure. Tron was supposed to be open. Yeah. Guardians of the Galaxy, they didn't know for sure, but there was talk that was even going to try to be open during the 18th month celebration, which it still could. Tron still could. Like they may be open in time for the 50th, not the start of the 50th.
Right.
But there was so much that was planned that was just unable to come to fruition because of COVID. So, I think guests have a valued complaint in saying that, to pay for more right now. But I guess at the same time, we're more everywhere.
Here's the thing to think about, though. When it comes to the discretionary income that people are setting aside for things like theme parks, in the absence of value, the first thing, perception or not, people think about is the money they're spending. And that's a huge thing, especially with Disney, for all the points you brought up. People are going, parts of the park aren't open, shows aren't open, attractions aren't running. Some of the offerings that people have grown to know and love. We talked about PhotoPass and what that's going to look like if you're getting an annual pass, but where pre-pandemic you'd walk into Disney's Hollywood Studios, and from the touch points up to Grauman's Chinese Theater, you would see 5 or 6 photographers just in that one little corridor. Now, if you're lucky, and that's everywhere. So
it's legit too.
It is. It's a legitimate concern, and I hope Disney's paying attention, because people feel a sense of ownership, especially if they've been to the park several dozen times, if they have annual passes, and if they see these things aren't being taken care of. I know I'm preaching to the choir. That's when people surrender their annual passes. That's when they start looking somewhere else, and they go, oh, wait a minute, I can buy an annual pass at this other park, and I get the rest of 2021 for free. Oh, and they're going to throw in 6 guest passes for 2022.
I mean, the real talk, we're just broke. So like we're just broke. We just can't afford Disney. Like, we'll do our one trip in 3 years.
But that, Brian, that's a great point, though, you're bringing up, because it goes to another conversation we've had in a previous episode where we touched on the fact is Disney still considering everybody a VIP, or are they changing their target marketing, and now are they going after high affinity?
I'll be honest, because here's a funny thing. Be careful what you wish for, because you might just get it. And here is the people that year after year after year, their feedback and complaint is that Disney's too crowded. Disney's too crowded. I didn't get to experience everything I wanted to. It was too crowded. Disney's too crowded. Disney's too crowded. Well, how do you make a park less crowded and more profitable? Well, you raise the price. And while maintaining your profit margins, the cost goes up. And if the cost goes up high enough, you do risk losing a certain demographic. You're going to lose under a certain number, aren't going to be able to, you're going to price your way out of it. Yep. And do you start to target that elite economy and financial base and not even elite, upper middle class.
Well, yeah, you're targeting,
like it's Disney's not so unaffordable. And here's the other thing. People, I hear all the time, and again, I'm a travel agent. I just brought a family to Disney in August that had never been, swore they could never afford it. Just every excuse. Like, I've always wanted to go to Disney. I just know I can't afford it. Let's look at a value resort. Let's get you a special deal when they're offering a promotion, and let me throw you a number and see if you, oh my God, I can afford that. Okay, well, now you're in the mix. Do you stay at the Grand Floridian club level? Because you're surely not getting that for $118 or $127 anymore, even if you work for Disney. The Floridian or the Polynesian, people see these places and they want to go there, and then you quote them $1,200 a night. They're like, how do people afford it? $200 for the park and $1,200 for the room.
The most important thing, I'm a giant Club Med fan, and there's one Club Med resort in the U.S. It's in Port St. Lucie, and I learned after talking with one of their booking reps, I was like, wow, your prices are higher than I have ever seen them. And she said, well, people are not traveling. We're an international destination resort. And that's what the Walt Disney Resort is as well. The Walt Disney World Resort caters to international visitors. And a lot of those, a gross majority, especially when you look at the summer, which is winter south of the equator, are folks coming up from South America. And they're folks with money to spend who have budgeted for those trips. You're talking about numbers in the hundreds of thousands coming to visit. That money's not coming. So Disney's got to do other things. And what they're doing though, they're also they're creating premium value added offerings, and they're smart about it because people can sign up and do these things and pay the money and get the experience. I'm very interested. I'm keenly interested to see how the Star Cruiser is going to pan out once she opens, because many people that I've talked to who are giant Star Wars fans, have said they haven't balked at it. They've just said, I'm going to wait till they do a Florida resident thing, because right now, not interested.
It went up for booking 2 days ago to DVC, Club 33, and some other people.
Right.
And it's 100-room hotel, I believe. 2-day package. So you're literally looking at 300 rooms a week, really, that you're doing. You're not going to see a discount on that for the next 5 years. That will be in demand enough with the Star Wars fan base that will probably go 3 to 5 years, I'd say, realistically. Now, that is if it gets positive reviews on the experience, because the demand will be there. It's going to book out. I mean, we're already seeing it. They're booking out like crazy just for DVC and Club 33 and everything else. It's going to, because of the low number of rooms, it's going to book out much for, there's 2,000 rooms at Pop Century. 28, almost 3,000 rooms. I think it's 2,800 rooms at Pop Century. Do the math on that. That's 28 Star Cruiser hotels at one resort at Disney. So realize that demand, even though you think, oh my God, that's so much money, if the top 1% are doing it, even if it's the top 10% of Disney fans, you're not even beginning to touch, what is going to be booked up. So you're going to be booking for a long time.
Remember, another thing to think about is the people who grew up with Star Wars. They're now old enough. The kids have flown the coop. Maybe they've retired. They've got incomes coming in. they don't care. They've got money to spend, and that's what they're going to spend it on.
Oh, but Ron, I mean, in all honesty, there's a whole new the one thing with Star Wars now, like for the fan base, it's so cross generational.
Yes, it
because
is.
because it has spanned. You take Mandalorian, just created a whole new generation of Star Wars fans.
Yep. Yep.
I mean, you go back prior to that, the second trilogy
Well, and then you've
created
then,
no Star Wars fans,
sure.
and the third trilogy.
Well, and they were multi-generational with the first trilogy that came out. You know, with Star Wars, you literally had a film that launched 1,000 individual ships, and I think you're right. If the was it the Book of Boba Fett? Is that the new one that's coming out?
Yeah, Boba
which
Fett.
is that that's also going to have I think a tremendous following. So you're correct about that. I'm excited to see that. I just I know that there are some things happening under the surface regarding staffing that is still an issue and is going to be a bigger issue because they're either having a hard time hanging on to people or they're having a hard time hiring people in the first place.
This industry, I will say, I watched a story reported today, and I was interested in hearing the newscaster's take on it. And they were talking about the service industry post-COVID and how that industry will now never be the same again. And I have to say, having heard the reporting, heard the story, and heard the reaction to the way things are now post-COVID by the employees that had worked in the industry and have moved on to other ones, or people that consider working in the industry or work in it, we're talking about how there is a new low in respect for people and treatment, and how expectation is so high. There's no understanding to the fact that they're short-staffed. It was one girl was talking about how she's the only waitress that works at the restaurant she works at right now. And they used to have 5, and she works 7 days a week. She works 2 to 3 shifts a day for meals.
Yeah.
They started closing for some of the slower shifts because she can't work because she doesn't have the energy anymore, and they can't get any help. And it's so sad to hear those stories, but you start to understand that people don't want to go into an industry where you literally never get an attaboy. You never get a good job.
It's beyond not getting the attaboys. Any of the perks that we typically associate with going to work in corporate America typically don't exist in restaurants. Your pay, because this is a unique and backwards thing, unique to the US, where the diner is expected to make up the difference in the server's salary. It's a bizarre thing you don't see in other first world nations. So you've got that. You've got the fact that, especially in Florida, which is a right to work state, schedules get changed all the time. They get changed last minute, and people don't want that. They want security. They've been able to spend time with their families, and they recognize how important that is. Or they decided during the pandemic, I'm going to try this and see how it works. And we've talked about this off air. It's a reason why many people who are former cast members, and we're always, here's the thing, as a cast member, even though I no longer work for the company, in my heart, I'm always going to be a cast member, and I know plenty of people who got the call to come back to Disney and they said no, because the thing that they started on their own is now a thing that's enriching them and others. And that's the thing you're seeing. It's not the great resignation. It's the great defection. People are leaving the hospitality industry because it's inhospitable to the people who work it. I mean, for me, I love the hospitality industry, but, and Brian, this, my pivot was gigantic. I I went into an organization where, we like to say we're a people development business that happens to sell insurance. And, when I tell people that, they go, what you're doing? What happened? It's like, no, I get it. But that uncertainty is enough to keep people away. And
100%.
it causes me to bristle just a little when I hear restaurant owners blame people for, it's like, you're sitting at home collecting a check and being too lazy to work. That's not true. Pay them, um, you know, pay them money, find a way, come up with a profit sharing program, do something so that they're incentivized to come into work.
Correct. But the problem is with the small business owner is the corporate, the current structure is not friendly to them paying employees anyway, because it's so hard right now to make money to begin with, because a lot of those businesses don't have business there, or food cost has almost doubled. So a restaurant owner has the choice of, there's other aspects that people just don't realize.
It's
that
true.
It's not just a business owner saying, hey, I don't want my people here if they're not going to take their $2 an hour and take their tips. They're like, our cost operation, our heating cost has gone through the roof. We had to put, a friend owns a local Italian place here. He had to put $17,000 into a deck outside so that he could stay open and keep his entire staff on, so they'd have enough tables, because otherwise, because of the distancing requirements, he was cutting his floor in half and he only needed half his staff. He wanted everyone to be able to come back. So he spent money out of his own pocket, thousands, stopped taking a salary, isn't making money himself. Food cost has gone up. And as of now, he still hasn't raised his prices in the restaurant, but he's getting to the point where he's like, I have to. Chicken's twice what it cost me last year.
Yeah, but people, you know what? People will pay the money, especially if you're giving them a quality product. I have a buddy who owns several seafood restaurants, and he's one of those people who they travel out of their way to have his New England lobster roll. And every single time I talk to him, he appropriately kvetches about the fact that lobster's going up.
What? Lobster?
It's okay. You don't have to like the things that other people like.
If you would like some lobster, I'll walk across the street and go grab some for you. I can ship it down.
Yeah.
I can find them at the beach. I grew up here. Like, lobster for me, I'm like, that's like what's a Florida food that, that's like saying to Florida, hey, you guys want some fresh oranges? Oh, do you like fresh oranges?
Doesn't everybody?
No. But
Frank likes fresh oranges.
Frank loves oranges. Frank loves all citrus. He's a citrusy guy. Yes. But the real talk, though, there's so many different opportunities, and we've gone real long tonight, and I think we touched on some great points, and we did get away from the 50th a little bit. But one of the things is, I want to try to swing it back for a second, is just the fact that all produce, Frank, all produce, he says. But I want to swing it back to the fact that the 50th is going to have ups and downs. And there's nothing wrong with anyone that is not thrilled or not impressed or anything else. I'll be honest, I've watched Enchantment 3 times now, trying to take a different outlook every time. And it does get a little easier to watch. It grows on you a little. And just like when Happily Ever After first started and everybody hated on it, it grew on people. So if you go,
but is that what Disney's after? Disney's a wow factor kind of entertainment enterprise. They don't want it to be a slow burn. They don't want you to watch something and walk away going, oh, I
understand that, but I think, Ron, too, I try to keep in mind the fact that I am one of the people that was there numerous times. I think they missed the mark with the 50th because I think they could have done a different style show that was more paying tribute to 50 years, not so much a new show for the 50th.
I'm mortified that Walt's voice is not present in 1 second of that.
I don't think it is. I
haven't seen it, folks, so I don't know.
I can't say for certain because again, I watched it on television, like on a, and I'm deaf to begin with, but I don't believe it is. And I was just surprised there wasn't more nods to the historical, like the park itself. It just seemed like that was a great opportunity to have a show that wasn't just centered around what they've done with production, but what they've created as the world, the world that is Walt Disney World.
Yeah, but anything that happens now, it's part of that cross marketing, cross branding. I mean, it's always going to be that way.
It's the game. Yeah. I mean, I understand the hustle too, and I understand,
But can you do the hustle?
I can. Van McCoy, by the way. But
do the hustle.
Not right now. The reality is though that I think that show, when I say it missed the mark, we're getting delirious now. This is the delirious time. This is the time we sign off. Where I feel it missed the mark, I feel like it should have been geared towards, the history of the park more than a current show.
Yes.
What they did was market to the next generation Disney fan. Yeah. And I don't think there is a problem with that either. I don't fault them for doing that. But when you hype the 50th as the most epic celebration ever, I feel like they missed the boat with a couple of things.
Here's the thing. You can market it to whoever you want, but and the thing is, to me, does it make sense? Because I don't yet know if it does. For me, I kind of feel right now that the way the show has been constructed, it feels like you're up watching Nick at Night, and you're watching you're watching Cheers, you're watching reruns of Cheers, and in the commercials you're getting things like Massengale and and all stuff that absolutely doesn't. You're not the target audience. It's like somebody missed that. We've all seen something on TV and the commercials come on and they go, who in the world created this programming? Because I am not your target market.
Right. That's kind of the spot on, hit it right on the head.
Yeah.
They missed the target audience for what they were trying to create a show for. And my question is, did you try to create a show for the 50th, or did you try to create a show to replace Happily Ever After? What is that? Oh, nice. I like it.
Remember, did you ever get any of these? Aren't they great? Aren't they awesome?
Nope. Yeah. That's cool.
I might have an extra one. If I do, it's yours.
Was that for the anniversary?
Oh crap! I don't know. I've had this longer than that. I couldn't tell you.
Okay.
I think this comes from the 10-year.
So when we get off this broadcast tonight, you need to Google Beacons of Light.
I will. Because look, it says hang on.
It says Epcot Center.
Yeah.
Yep.
Which it hasn't been for a very long time.
Yep. But that's and that's my
Beacons of Light.
Beacons of Light at Disney. Obviously, it'll be the Epcot Light Show. But it's sick.
Not at Gatorland.
No freaky Florida man stuff. But check them out, because and those of you watching, it's worth Googling the shows and checking it out. I can't wait to see them live. Probably going to be a couple years though. I mean, it'll probably be a couple years before we get back into Disney.
We should stay at the Star Cruiser.
Who can we bill?
And Well, you know,
Frank, do you want to
Disney,
treat
Disney,
Ron and
Disney.
I are
Well,
really
no,
cool, but if you want to treat us
Disney.
to the Star Cruiser, we'll stay with you.
Here's the thing. Disney's really good to its media partners. So we just need to get in as a media partner, and they'll take care of
Okay,
it.
so all we got to do is tell Disney, hey, we get 2 fans a week, and they watch religiously. They follow our advice.
Wait, no, you said we had 4. You can tell them.
There was 4 a
we're
few
brilliant.
minutes ago, but now there's 2 because we're boring the crap out of our guests.
Frank, if we had swag to send you for being a loyal follower and listener, it would be yours.
See, Jen's watching too. We
Hi,
got Jennifer
Jen.
watching. Ah, that's hilarious. All right, we're gonna wrap it up because we're 90 minutes in, and like I think I know people that have given birth and gone full term during this episode. So, all right, but guys, thank you for watching.
Please keep your hands, arms, and legs inside the train and remain seated at all times. Now then, hang on to them hats and glasses, because this here's the wildest ride in the wilderness.